What would you do if you found out your younger brother wasn't really your father's child, and the man who helped create him was someone you loved? My name is Jennifer Chin and I'm 21 years old. 3 months ago, I discovered that my entire life was built on a lie so devastating that some days I still can't believe it's real. It started with a genetics assignment. I was in my senior year at Oregon State University, taking a required biology course for my pre-veterinary program. The professor assigned us a project on hereditary traits, and we were encouraged to use our own families as case studies. I thought it would be fun, a way to learn more about where I came from while fulfilling an academic requirement. My baby brother Michael was 3 months old then and I was completely in love with him. When he'd been born in January, I'd felt like my family was finally complete. My parents had struggled with infertility for years, suffering through miscarriages and failed treatments. Michael was their miracle baby, arriving just when they'd nearly given up hope. Please subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories that uncover hidden truths. I decided to create a family tree mapping eye color, hair texture, and blood type, simple Mendelian traits we were studying in class. I called my mom to get the information. "Mom, what's Michael's blood type?" I asked during one of our regular evening calls. "I need it for my genetics project." There was a pause on the other end. A pause just long enough to make my stomach flutter with something I couldn't name. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," she said finally. "Why do you need to know?" "It's for school. We're mapping hereditary traits. I already know you and Dad are both type A and I'm type A too. I just need Michael's to complete the chart." Another pause. "I'll have to check his medical records and get back to you." It was a strange response. Surely she would remember something as basic as her newborn's blood type. But I didn't think much of it then. My mother had been exhausted those first few months with a newborn at 42, and I figured the information had simply slipped her mind. 2 days later she still hadn't called back. When I tried again she deflected, saying the pediatrician's office hadn't returned her call. When I offered to contact them myself, she became defensive in a way that was completely unlike her. "Jennifer, why is this so important?" she snapped. "Can't you just use a different trait for your project?" That's when I knew something was wrong. My mother never snapped at me. And she certainly never avoided simple questions about family medical information. I couldn't let it go. That night I lay in my dorm room staring at the ceiling, my mind churning through possibilities. Why would my mother be evasive about Michael's blood type? What could possibly be sensitive about such basic information? The thought crept in slowly, unwelcome and terrible. What if Michael isn't Dad's biological son? To push it away. My parents loved each other. Yes, their marriage had become more practical than passionate over the years, but that was normal, wasn't it? They'd been together for over 20 years. They ran 3 successful restaurants together. They'd tried for years to have another child. But once the thought took root, I couldn't dislodge it. I started remembering small things I'd overlooked. The way my mother had been so secretive during her pregnancy, insisting she didn't want anyone at her doctor's appointments except my father. The way she'd seemed nervous rather than just excited when she announced she was pregnant. The way she'd been spending unusual amounts of time with Jake in the months before Michael was conceived. Jake. My boyfriend of 3 years. The man I was planning to marry. No. That was impossible. That was insane. If this story moved you even a little, please like this video. Subscribe for more real-life stories that uncover hidden truths. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were in my place? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started looking at Michael more carefully during my weekend visits home. He had dark hair like our family, but his features seemed different somehow. His eyes were a blue-gray that neither of my parents had. His chin had a certain shape that reminded me of someone, though I couldn't place who. Then one Saturday morning I was holding Michael while Jake stood nearby, and my mother's friend Lucy said something that made my blood run cold. "You know, when Jake holds Michael they could almost be father and son," Lucy laughed. "Something about the eyes, maybe. Isn't genetics funny?" Everyone laughed it off. But I saw the look that passed between my mother and Jake. Just for a split second, but unmistakable. It was fear. That's when I knew. I managed to hold myself together until I got back to my dorm room that night. Then I collapsed on my bed and cried until I thought I might vomit. It couldn't be true. It couldn't. But suddenly so many things made sense. Jake's strange distance over the past year, my mother's secretiveness, the way they sometimes looked at each other during family gatherings. I needed proof. I couldn't confront them based on a feeling no matter how strong. I ordered a DNA testing kit online, the kind that could determine paternity. During my next visit home, I collected samples. A cotton swab against Michael's cheek while I was babysitting, a hair from Jake's brush when I stayed at his apartment, a strand from my father's comb when he wasn't looking. The 2 weeks I waited for results were the longest of my life. I went through my days mechanically, attending classes, studying, eating, sleeping, but inside I was screaming. I couldn't talk to anyone. Couldn't tell my roommate or my best friends what I suspected. The possibility was too enormous, too devastating. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in the library supposedly working on an essay about animal husbandry, when my phone buzzed with the notification. Your DNA test results are ready. My hands shook so badly I could barely tap the link. The screen loaded slowly, each second an eternity. And then there it was, in black and white, in percentages and probability markers that left no room for doubt. Probability of paternity. 99.97%. Jake was Michael's biological father. Jake, my boyfriend. Jake, who I'd loved for 3 years. Jake, who I'd planned to marry. Jake, who'd been welcomed into our family, who'd eaten at our table, who my father trusted completely. Jake had gotten my mother pregnant. I don't remember much about the rest of that day. I know I left the library. I know I walked around campus for hours, my mind completely blank except for one thought repeating over and over. How could they do this to me? Not just to me. To my father. To our family. To Michael, who would grow up living live. By the time I got back to my dorm room, the shock had burned away, leaving behind pure rage. I called Jake. "Hey babe," he answered, his voice warm and familiar. "How's your day going?" "I need to see you," I said, my voice flat and cold. "Right now." "Yen? What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm driving up from Corvallis. Meet me at your apartment in 2 hours." "Jennifer, you're scaring me." "What happened?" "You know exactly what happened," I said. 2 hours. Be there." I hung up and threw some clothes in a bag. The drive to Portland passed in a blur. I don't remember getting on the highway, don't remember the turns I took. I was operating on autopilot, running on adrenaline and heartbreak. When I pulled up to Jake's apartment building, he was already waiting outside, pacing nervously. The moment he saw my face, I watched the color drain from his. "Jennifer." "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't say anything until we're inside." We went up to his apartment in silence. His roommates were out, thank God. I didn't want an audience for what was about to happen. The moment the door closed behind us, I threw the DNA test results at his chest. "Explain this." Jake caught the papers, looked down at them, and I watched his entire world collapse in real time. His face went white, then gray. His hands started shaking. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "Michael is your son," I said, my voice deadly calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. "You had sex with my mother. You got her pregnant. And you let my father believe the baby was his." "Jennifer, his voice cracked. "I can explain." "Explain." I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. "What possible explanation could there be? Did you trip and fall into my mother? Did it happen by accident? Multiple times apparently, since it takes more than once to get someone pregnant." "It wasn't like that," he said desperately. "Jennifer, please, let me tell you what happened. What happened is that you fucked my mother." I was screaming now, 3 years of trust and love curdling into pure hatred. "While you were dating me. While you were telling me you loved me. While you were planning our future together." "I do love you," Jake said, tears streaming down his face now. "Jennifer, I love you more than anything. Don't you dare say that to me." I shoved him hard and he stumbled backward. "You don't betray someone you love like this. You don't sleep with their mother. You don't lie to them every single day for months." "She asked me to help her," Jake said, his words tumbling out desperately. "Your mom, she told me about the fertility problems, about how your dad couldn't. So you volunteered." I interrupted. "My 42-year-old mother asked my 21-year-old boyfriend to impregnate her, and you just said yes?" The look on his face told me everything. He had said yes. He had actually agreed to this insanity. "How long?" I demanded. "How long were you sleeping with her?" "It wasn't like that. How long?" 3 months, he whispered. "Last spring. Before she got pregnant." 3 months. I tried to remember last spring, tried to recall any signs I'd missed. I'd been in Corvallis focused on my junior year finals. Jake had seemed distant, but I'd attributed it to stress. I trusted him. I trusted both of them. Did you love her? I asked, and my voice was suddenly quiet, broken. No, Jake said immediately. Jennifer, no. It was never about that. I was trying to help your family. By destroying it? I laughed bitterly. Congratulations, Jake. Mission accomplished. Pause for a moment. If you believe truth always finds its way out, tap like. Subscribe if you don't want to miss stories like this. And comment below, should some secrets stay buried forever? Please. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Please, Jennifer, we can work through this. Work through this. I stared at him in disbelief. Work through this? Jake, you have a child with my mother. Every time I look at Michael, I'll know he's your son. Every family dinner, every holiday, every birthday, I'll be sitting there knowing that my boyfriend is the father of my baby brother. He's the most important thing, Jake started. Don't you dare talk about Michael like you care about what's best for him. I cut him off. What's best for him is the truth, and you've stolen that from him. He's going to grow up believing my dad is his father, and that's a lie. When he finds out, and he will find out, Jake, it's going to destroy him. Jake collapsed onto his couch, his head in his hands. I know, he said quietly. Jennifer, I know. I've thought about all of this every single day. I thought I was doing the right thing. The right thing? I was pacing now, unable to stand still. The right thing would have been to say no. The right thing would have been to tell me what my mother was asking. The right thing would have been literally anything other than what you did. I was trying to give your family what they wanted most, Jake said, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. Your mom was desperate for another child, so you gave her your child. I shouted. You gave her a baby that's biologically yours. Did you think about that? Did you think about what it would mean? Did you think about me at all? I thought about you every second, he said. Jennifer, you have to believe me. I don't have to believe anything you say ever again, I said coldly. Everything you've told me for the past year has been a lie. Every time you said, I love you, every time you held me, every time we talked about our future. All of it was happening while you were keeping this massive secret. It wasn't all a lie, Jake insisted. My feelings for you were never a lie. Your feelings don't matter. I shouted. Your actions matter. And your actions were to betray me in the most fundamental way possible. You didn't just cheat on me, Jake. You created a whole human being with my mother. You gave my family a child who will live his entire life surrounded by lies. The full weight of it hit me then, and I had to sit down before my legs gave out. Oh God, I whispered. My dad doesn't know. He's at home right now taking care of a baby he thinks is his son, and he has no idea. I looked up at Jake. Does he know? Does my father know what you did? Jake shook his head, looking sick. So you're lying to him too, I said. You're letting him raise your child, love your child, bond with your child, all while believing the lie. Your dad is a good father, Jake said quietly. He loves Michael. That's not the point. I stood up again, unable to sit still. The point is he deserves to know the truth. He deserves to know that his wife betrayed him, that you betrayed him, that the child he's raising isn't biologically his. If we tell him, it will destroy your family, Jake said desperately. Jennifer, think about what would happen. Your parents' marriage would end. Your dad would be devastated. Michael would grow up in a broken home. My family is already destroyed. I screamed. It was destroyed the moment you and my mother decided to do this. We're just living in the wreckage without knowing it yet. Jake was crying openly now. I'm sorry, he sobbed. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing something good. Good. I laughed bitterly. You thought creating a child through deception and betrayal was good? You thought lying to everyone you claimed to love was good. I didn't know what else to do, Jake said helplessly. Your mom was so desperate, and I cared about her, and I thought, you cared about her, I repeated slowly. You cared about my mother more than you cared about me. No, yes, I insisted. Because if you cared about me, you would have told me what she was asking. You would have let me be part of the decision. You would have respected me enough to be honest. I was afraid you'd leave me, Jake admitted. So instead you just made sure I'd have to leave you eventually when I found out, I said. Because I was always going to find out, Jake. Did you really think this could stay secret forever? He didn't answer, which was answer enough that I walked to the door, needing to get out of this apartment away from him before I completely fell apart. Jennifer, wait. Jake stood up. Please don't go like this. We need to talk about what happens next. What happens next is I never want to see you again, I said without turning around. What happens next is you need to stay away from me and my family. Michael is my son, Jake said quietly. I can't just stay away. I turned to look at him then, and I must have looked terrifying because he actually stepped back. Michael is my brother, I said coldly. And you will stay away from him until I decide what to do with the information I have. Because right now, Jake, I'm the only one who knows the truth besides you and my mother. I'm the only one who can decide whether to blow up my entire family or keep living in this nightmare of a lie. What are you going to do? Jake asked fearfully. I don't know yet, I admitted. But whatever I decide, it won't be for your sake. It won't even be for my sake. It will be for Michael and my father because they're the real victims here. I left then, walking out of Jake's apartment and out of his life. I made it to my car before the tears came, great racking sobs that left me gasping for air. I cried for my broken relationship, for my shattered family, for the father who didn't know he'd been betrayed, for the baby brother who would grow up surrounded by lies. But I didn't cry for Jake or my mother. They had made their choices. Now I had to make mine. The confrontation with my mother came 2 days later. I drove home to Portland without calling ahead, arriving at the house in Laurelhurst on a Thursday afternoon when I knew my father would be at the restaurant and my mother would be home alone with Michael. She answered the door with Michael in her arms, her face lighting up when she saw me. Jennifer. What a wonderful surprise. The look on my face stopped her mid-sentence. Put Michael in his crib, I said flatly. We need to talk. I watched the color drain from her face. Jennifer. Now, Mom. She disappeared upstairs with Michael. I heard her moving around, heard her whispering to him, heard the mobile above his crib start playing its lullaby. When she came back downstairs, she looked 10 years older than she had 2 minutes ago. You know, she said quietly. I know everything, I confirmed. I had a DNA test done. Jake is Michael's biological father. My mother sank onto the couch, her hand over her mouth. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. How could you? I finally asked, my voice breaking. Mom, how could you do this to me? To Dad? To Michael? I wanted a baby so badly, she whispered. Jennifer, you don't understand what it's like to want something so desperately and to have your body fail you over and over. So you slept with my boyfriend? I interrupted. That was your solution? You couldn't adopt, couldn't accept that you already had one healthy, happy daughter? You had to seduce my boyfriend and get pregnant with his child. I didn't seduce him, she said, looking up with something like defiance in her eyes. I asked him to help us and he agreed. He was 21 years old. I shouted. I was his girlfriend. You were supposed to be my mother, supposed to protect me, supposed to have my best interests at heart. Instead, you manipulated him and destroyed my relationship. I never meant to hurt you, my mother said, tears streaming down her face now. Jennifer, I love you more than anything. You don't love me, I said coldly. If you loved me, you couldn't have done this. Love doesn't betray people like this. I thought, she started. You thought you could get away with it, I finished for her. You thought no one would ever find out, that you could just live with this lie forever and everything would be fine. It was fine, she said desperately. Before you found out, everything was fine. Your father is happy, Michael is healthy, our family is complete. Our family is built on a massive lie. I shouted. Nothing about this is fine. Dad is raising another man's child without knowing it. I'm being asked to celebrate my boyfriend's son as my brother. Michael is going to grow up not knowing who his real father is. Jake isn't his real father, my mother said firmly. David is his father. David is the one who feeds him and changes him and stays up with him at night. David is the one who loves him. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Biology makes Jake legally responsible, I countered. Biology gives him rights. Biology means that someday when Michael finds out the truth, and he will find out, his entire sense of identity will be shattered. He doesn't have to find out, my mother said quietly. I stared at her in disbelief. You actually think this can stay secret? Mom, I figured it out through a genetics assignment. Michael could figure it out the same way someday. Or what if he needs medical information? What if he wants to do one of those ancestry DNA tests that everyone does now? What if he just looks at pictures of Jake and realizes they have the same eyes? We'll handle that when it happens, she said. No, I said flatly. We'll handle it now. By telling Dad the truth. My mother's eyes went wide with panic. Jennifer, no. Please. If you tell your father, it will destroy our marriage. He'll never forgive me. He might, her voice dropped to a whisper, he might try to take Michael from me. Michael is his son as far as he knows, I pointed out. You don't get to play the victim here, Mom. You're the one who chose to lie to him. I chose to give him the child he always wanted, she insisted. David has been so happy these past few months. I've never seen him like this. He's glowing with pride and joy. Would you really take that away from him? You're the one who should be asking yourself that question, I said. You're the one who created this situation. I'm just trying to figure out how to deal with the wreckage. We stared at each other across the living room, mother and daughter, but feeling like strangers now. What do you want from me? My mother finally asked. I want you to tell me why, I said. Why Jake? Why my boyfriend? There are sperm banks, Mom. There are fertility clinics. There are thousands of ways you could have had another child without doing this to me. She was quiet for a long moment, looking down at her hands. Jake felt like family, she said finally. I'd watched him grow up over 3 years. I knew he was good and kind and intelligent. I knew he cared about our family. Using a stranger felt cold, wrong. But Jake already loved us. He already wanted to be part of our family. So you made him part of it in the most twisted way possible, I said bitterly. I gave him a gift too, my mother said, looking up at me. He grew up without a mother, Jennifer. His childhood was so lonely. I gave him a family, a place to belong. You gave him a guilty secret that's eating him alive, I interrupted. I saw him 2 days ago, Mom. He's destroyed by what he did. He can barely look at himself in the mirror. Then we have to protect him, my mother said urgently. Jennifer, if this comes out, Jake's life will be ruined too. People will call him terrible things. They'll say he took advantage of an older woman or that we took advantage of him. Either way, his reputation will be destroyed. Maybe it should be, I said coldly. Maybe there should be consequences for sleeping with your girlfriend's mother. He was trying to help, my mother insisted. He was trying to keep you happy, I corrected. Because he saw you as a mother figure and couldn't say no. Mom, do you not see how manipulative this was? He wasn't mature enough to understand what he was agreeing to. You took advantage of his youth and his attachment to our family. I didn't take advantage of anyone, she said defensively. Jake made his own choice. A choice you pushed him toward, I said. A choice you knew I would never agree to if you'd asked me. That's why you went behind my back. My mother stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden she'd carefully tended for years. What do you want me to say? She asked quietly. That I'm sorry? I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry you found out. I'm sorry you're hurting. But I'm not sorry I have Michael. Her words hit me like a slap. She was sorry, I knew, but not sorry for what she'd done. She would do it all again if it meant having her baby. I need time, I said finally. I need time to think about what to do next. Please don't tell your father, my mother begged, turning back to face me. Jennifer, please. Whatever you decide about Jake and me, please don't destroy your father's happiness. He loves Michael so much. Dad deserves the truth, I said. Dad deserves to be happy, she countered. And right now he is. The happiest I've seen him in years. I left without promising anything. As I drove away from the house where I'd grown up, where I'd had birthday parties and family dinners and lazy Sunday mornings, I felt like I was leaving behind a stranger's home. Nothing looked the same anymore. Nothing felt real. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Tell your father the truth, walk away and disappear, or bury the secret so the family doesn't fall apart? Tell me in the comments. That was 3 months ago. I still don't know what to do. I broke up with Jake, obviously. There's no coming back from what he did, no matter how much he claims to love me. Some betrayals are too fundamental to forgive. But the question of what to tell my father keeps me awake at night. Some days I think he absolutely deserves to know the truth. He's being lied to every single day by the 2 people he trusts most. He's pouring his love into a child who isn't biologically his. And while I understand that biology isn't everything, doesn't he have the right to know? Other days I think about how devastating the truth would be. My father would lose his wife, his family structure, possibly even his relationship with Michael if the custody battle got ugly. Is my need for honesty worth destroying his happiness? And then there's Michael. Sweet, innocent Michael who didn't ask for any of this. What kind of life am I condemning him to if I expose the truth? A broken home? Parents who hate each other? The knowledge that his existence is built on betrayal. But if I stay silent, I'm complicit in the lie. I'm helping my mother and Jake continue their deception. I'm watching my father love a child without knowing the truth about that child's origins. I've moved back to Portland, but I'm living with friends, not at home. I can't be around my mother right now without feeling sick. I visit my father at the restaurant, just the two of us, and it breaks my heart to see how happy he is, how he can't stop talking about Michael's latest milestone or funny moment. That I see Michael too because I do love him. He's my brother, even if the circumstances of his conception make me want to vomit. He didn't choose any of this. He's an innocent baby who deserves to be loved. But every time I hold him, I see Jake's eyes looking back at me. I see the shape of Jake's chin, the way Jake's hair falls. The resemblances that Lucy noticed that day are becoming more pronounced as Michael grows. Sooner or later, other people are going to notice too. Jake has tried to contact me dozens of times. Long texts apologizing, begging for a chance to explain more fully, asking what I'm going to do. I've blocked his number, his email, his social media. I can't deal with him right now. Maybe not ever. My mother alternates between crying apologies and defensive justifications. She wants me to understand her desperation, her loneliness in her marriage, her biological drive to have another child. She wants me to forgive her. I don't know if I can. The weight of this secret is crushing me. I'm carrying it alone, and it's getting heavier every day. My friends know something is wrong, but I can't tell them what. How do you explain this situation to anyone? My ex-boyfriend is my baby brother's father. Sounds like something from a soap opera, not real life. I'm seeing a therapist now, one far from Portland, who doesn't know my family. She's helping me process the betrayal, the grief of losing both my boyfriend and my relationship with my mother, the impossible position I'm in regarding my father and Michael. She keeps asking me what I need to do to find peace. But I don't know if peace is possible. Every choice I make will hurt someone. Telling the truth will devastate my father and potentially harm Michael. Keeping the secret makes me complicit in a massive deception that could explode at any moment. I think about Michael growing up, going to family gatherings, calling Jake Uncle Jake, or eventually brother-in-law Jake, if Jake ends up marrying someone else. I think about him doing a biology project like I did, or taking one of those DNA tests, or needing medical information that doesn't match up with his supposed parents' history. I think about being at his 18th birthday party someday, watching him blow out candles while everyone celebrates, knowing that half the people in the room are living a lie. I think about my father, getting older, maybe eventually needing medical care, asking Michael for support as his son, never knowing that genetic connection doesn't exist. I think about myself, trying to move forward with my life, trying to date again someday, trying to build a family of my own. How do I do that while carrying this secret? How do I bring someone new into my family dynamic knowing what I know? The worst part is that there's no good answer. No choice that doesn't hurt people I love. No path forward that feels right. My mother and Jake thought they were creating a miracle. Instead, they created a ticking time bomb that's already damaged our family and will continue to cause pain for years to come, whether the truth comes out or not. I'm 21 years old, and I'm drowning in a secret that's not mine to keep, but also too devastating to tell. I'm angry and heartbroken and lost, and I don't know how to find my way back to solid ground. The only thing I know for certain is that nothing will ever be the same. My family has been fractured in a way that can't be repaired, whether everyone knows it yet or not. The question now is whether I expose that fracture or let us all continue living in the ruins, pretending everything is fine. I still don't have an answer. The decision was made for me. It was Michael's 6-month pediatric appointment. My father went alone because my mother had a migraine that morning, or so she claimed. I suspect she was avoiding something, though I didn't know what at the time. Dad called me that evening, his voice strange, tight, controlled in a way that scared me. Jennifer, can you come to the house? Your mother and I need to talk to you. Is Michael okay? My first thought was always of my baby brother now. Michael is fine. Just, please come. I drove to Laurelhurst with my stomach in knots. When I walked through the door, the atmosphere was arctic. My mother sat on the couch, her face blotchy from crying. My father stood by the fireplace, his arms crossed, his expression harder than I'd ever seen it. Tell her, he said to my mother. My mother looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes. Jennifer, tell her what you told me an hour ago, my father interrupted, his voice like steel. And that's when I knew. Somehow he'd found out. The pediatrician asked about family medical history. My father said, his eyes never leaving my mother's face. Specifically about a genetic condition that runs in my family. He wanted to know if we'd had Michael tested for it since he's at risk. My mother's face crumpled. But then the doctor looked at Michael's chart more carefully, Dad continued. And he said something that didn't make sense. He said Michael's blood type was O positive. I'm type A. Your mother is type A. He finally looked at me. You're type A. It's genetically impossible for two type A parents to have a type O child. The room spun. My genetics project. The question my mother had dodged. She'd known this would eventually come up. The doctor assumed there must have been a clerical error, Dad went on. He suggested we do a simple blood test to correct the records. And that's when your mother. His voice broke slightly. That's when your mother told me the truth. I looked at my mother, who was sobbing silently now. She told me that Michael isn't mine biologically, Dad said, and hearing him say those words out loud made them real in a way they hadn't been when it was just my secret. She told me she asked someone else to father her child because I couldn't. And then she told me who. His eyes found mine again, and in them I saw devastation so complete it made my chest physically ache. Did you know? He asked quietly. Did you know that your boyfriend is Michael's biological father? I couldn't lie to him. Not now. Yes, I whispered. I found out 3 months ago. From a genetics assignment, actually. The same way you just did. Something flickered across his face, hurt that I'd kept it from him maybe, or understanding of why I had. 3 months, he repeated. You've known for 3 months. Please subscribe for more true stories. I didn't know what to do, I said, tears streaming down my face now. Dad, I didn't know whether telling you would help or just destroy everything. I've been trying to figure out the right thing. There is no right thing in this situation, he said bitterly. There's only the truth and lies. And apparently, everyone in this family chose lies. Tom, please, my mother started. Don't, he cut her off. Linda, don't. You don't get to please me right now. He walked to the window, his back to both of us. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer, but somehow that was worse than anger. I need to understand something, he said. Jake was 21 years old. You were 42. You were his girlfriend's mother. He looked up to you, trusted you. And you asked him to have sex with you. It wasn't like that, my mother protested. Then what was it like? Dad turned around. Explain it to me, Linda. Make me understand how this was anything other than you manipulating a young man who couldn't say no to you. He could have said no, my mother said defensively. Could he? Dad challenged. Really? You were the mother of the girl he loved. You'd welcomed him into our family. You treated him like a son. And then you asked him to father your child. What kind of position does that put a 21-year-old in? I'd never thought about it quite that way, but Dad was right. Jake had been young, eager to please, desperate to belong to our family. My mother had used all of that. I gave him a choice, my mother insisted weakly. You gave him an impossible situation, Dad corrected. And then you made him keep this massive secret, knowing it would eat him alive. Knowing it would destroy his relationship with Jennifer if she ever found out. Knowing it would devastate me. I wanted a baby, my mother said, her voice rising. David, you know how much I wanted another child. The doctors said you couldn't. So you went behind my back. Dad's voice rose to match hers. You lied to me, you manipulated Jake, you destroyed Jennifer's relationship, and you gave me a child to love while knowing I could lose him when the truth came out. You won't lose him, my mother said desperately. David, you're his father. You're the one who's been there every night, every feeding, every diaper change. Biology doesn't matter. Biology matters when it's been hidden. Dad shouted. Biology matters when the truth could come out at any time and destroy everything. Biology matters when my daughter had to find out her boyfriend fathered her brother. How could you do this to Jennifer? My mother looked at me then, her face agonized. Jennifer, I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said quietly. Mom, you destroyed my relationship. You destroyed my trust in you. You put me in an impossible position where I had to choose between protecting Dad or protecting you and Jake. You stole 3 years of my life with someone I thought I'd marry, and for what? So you could have a baby without telling Dad the truth. I love Michael, she said as if that explained everything. We all love Michael, Dad said tiredly. That's what makes this so unbearable. I love that little boy upstairs with everything I have. I've spent 6 months bonding with him, imagining his future, planning how I'll teach him to run the restaurant someday. And now I find out he's not mine. He is yours, my mother insisted. In every way that matters. Stop saying that. Dad exploded. Stop telling me what matters. You don't get to decide that for me. I deserve to know the truth from the beginning. I deserve to make my own choice about whether I wanted to raise another man's child. The silence that followed was deafening. Would you have, my mother asked finally, her voice small. If I'd told you the truth, if I'd asked you openly to raise a child that wasn't yours biologically, would you have agreed? Dad was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe. Maybe not. But that was my decision to make, Linda. Not yours. You stole that choice from me. He walked toward the stairs, then paused. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we need to talk about what happens next. But right now I can't look at you. After he left, my mother and I sat in silence. Upstairs we could hear Michael starting to fuss in his crib. Neither of us moved to get him. Are you happy now? My mother asked bitterly. You wanted him to know. Now he knows. I didn't tell him, I pointed out. The truth came out on its own. That's what happens with lies this big, Mom. They can't stay hidden forever. What's going to happen to us? She asked, and for the first time she sounded genuinely frightened. What's going to happen to Michael? I don't know, I said honestly. But whatever happens, you brought it on yourself. I left her sitting there and went upstairs to get Michael. He was crying now, his little face red and scrunched up. I picked him up and held him close, breathing in his baby smell, feeling his warm weight against my chest. It's okay, I whispered to him. Whatever happens, I've got you. I promise. My parents separated 2 weeks later. Dad moved into an apartment near the restaurants and Mom stayed in the house with Michael. The divorce proceedings started almost immediately. The custody battle was brutal. My mother's lawyer argued that Dad had been Michael's father in every meaningful way since birth, that Michael knew him as his father, that disrupting that relationship would harm the child. Dad's lawyer argued that the entire situation was built on fraud and deception, that my mother had no right to exclude the biological father from Michael's life. Which brought us to Jake. Dad insisted that Jake be informed about the custody proceedings. As Michael's biological father, he had legal rights whether my mother liked it or not. The look on Jake's face when the lawyer contacted him was something I'll never forget. I saw it when we all ended up in the same mediation session. He looked terrified. And he should have been. I don't want to take Michael from anyone, Jake said during that first mediation. His voice shook as he spoke. I never intended to be his father in any public way. I thought I was helping the family. You were sleeping with your girlfriend's mother, Dad said coldly. Let's be clear about what actually happened here. Jake flinched but nodded. Yes, that's what happened. And I've regretted it every single day since. But Michael exists now and he deserves stability and love, and I don't want to disrupt his life. Then what do you want? The mediator asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. I want Jennifer back, he said finally, looking at me with desperate eyes. I want to undo what I did. But since I can't do that, I want what's best for Michael. Even if that means I'm not part of his life. That's very noble, Dad said sarcastically. Too bad you didn't think about what was best for Michael before you created him. The mediation continued for weeks. My mother wanted full custody with Dad having visitation rights. Dad wanted joint custody with my mother. Jake was legally entitled to parental rights but said he'd waive them if it was better for Michael. I watched my family tear itself apart over conference room tables while lawyers billed hundreds of dollars per hour. And through it all, Michael remained blissfully unaware, 6 months old and happy as long as he was fed and held and loved. The judge finally made a decision. Joint custody between my parents, with Dad having Michael for half the time despite not being biologically related. The judge ruled that Dad had established a parental relationship in good faith, that Michael knew him as his father. and that disrupting that relationship would harm the child. Jake was granted the right to be informed about major medical and educational decisions, but no custody or visitation. The judge looked at him sternly and said, "You may be this child's biological father, but you participated in a deception that has harmed multiple people. Your rights are limited accordingly." My mother was ordered to pay my father's legal fees as well as her own. The judge had not been sympathetic to her case. I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Eugene now, where I moved after graduation to start veterinary school. I've been in therapy for over a year, working through the betrayal, the anger, the complicated grief of losing my relationship with both Jake and my mother. I see my father regularly. He's rebuilt his life, focusing on the restaurants and his time with Michael. He's dating someone new, a woman named Sarah who manages one of the restaurants. She's kind and genuine, and she treats Michael like he's precious, which he is. I see Michael whenever I'm in Portland. He's almost 18 months old now, walking and starting to talk. He calls my father Dada, and my mother Mama, and me Jen because he can't quite say Jennifer yet. He doesn't know anything about the complicated circumstances of his birth. Someday we'll have to tell him, but for now he's just a happy toddler who loves trucks and dogs and being thrown in the air. I don't see my mother very often. Our relationship is strained. She still doesn't fully accept responsibility for what she did. She frames it as a desperate woman's choice, as a mother's love, as doing what she had to do. She doesn't see the manipulation, the betrayal, the devastation she caused. Maybe someday I'll forgive her. My therapist says forgiveness is something I do for myself, not for her. But I'm not there yet. I haven't spoken to Jake in over a year. He tried to reach out several times in the beginning, but I never responded. Last I heard, he'd moved away from Portland, unable to handle running into my father at the restaurants or seeing Michael at family gatherings he wasn't invited to. Part of me feels bad for him. He was young and manipulated and in over his head. But part of me is still angry that he made the choice he made, that he kept the secret for so long, that he prioritized my mother's happiness over my right to know the truth. The hardest part is reconciling my love for Michael with my anger at how he came to exist. He's innocent in all of this. He didn't ask to be born from deception and betrayal. He's just a little boy who deserves to be loved and protected. I'm dating someone new now. His name is Marcus, and he's a fellow veterinary student. I told him the whole story on our third date because I couldn't build something new on half-truths and secrets. He listened quietly, his face cycling through shock and sympathy and understanding. "That's incredibly heavy," he said when I finished. "I'm so sorry you went through that." "It's part of my story now," I said. "My family is complicated and broken, and if you want to be with me, you need to know that." "Everyone's family is complicated in their own way," Marcus replied. "Yours is more dramatic than most, I'll give you that. But it doesn't change how I feel about you. We're taking things slow, but it feels good to be with someone who knows the truth from the beginning. No secrets. No lies. Just honesty even when it's ugly." Michael is 2.5 now. He's talking in full sentences, developing his personality, showing signs of who he'll become. And as he grows, the resemblances to Jake become harder to ignore. He has Jake's eyes, that same blue-gray color that's rare in our family. He has Jake's stubborn chin, the way it juts out when he's determined about something. His hair grows in the same pattern Jake's did. When he concentrates on a puzzle, his expression is pure Jake. My father sees it. I know he does. Sometimes I catch him looking at Michael with this complicated expression. Love mixed with pain, mixed with resignation. He knows that as Michael gets older, people will start asking questions. Where did he get those blue eyes? He doesn't look much like either of you. Is there Nordic ancestry in your family? We're going to have to tell Michael the truth eventually. The question is when and how. My therapist thinks we should tell him young in age-appropriate ways, so he grows up always knowing his story rather than having it revealed as a shocking betrayal later. The truth is easier to accept when it's always been part of your reality, she says. My father is reluctant. He wants to give Michael a normal childhood first, years of stability and security before dropping this bomb on him. My mother. I still don't know what she thinks. We don't talk about it. As for me, I'm trying to build a life that's separate from all this drama. I'm doing well in veterinary school. Marcus and I are still together, getting serious. I'm making new friends who don't know my family history, who see me as just Jennifer, not the girl whose mom slept with her boyfriend. But Michael is always there, a living reminder of what happened. I love him fiercely, protectively. He's my brother in every way that matters. But I also can't forget that he's Jake's son, born from a betrayal that shattered my family. I'm getting married next month. Not to Jake, obviously. That ship sailed and sank and is now at the bottom of the ocean. I'm marrying Marcus, who has been patient and kind and steady through all the continuing drama of my complicated family. Michael will be in the wedding. He's 5 years old now, and we've finally told him an age-appropriate version of the truth. The man you call Dad loved you so much he chose to be your father, even though another man helped make you. Someday when you're older we'll tell you more of the story. He accepted it with the flexibility of a 5-year-old. So I have 2 dads? He asked. You have one dad who's raising you and loves you, my father said firmly. And one biological father who isn't part of your life right now. Okay, Michael shrugged and went back to his trucks. Someday it will be more complicated. Someday he'll ask why his biological father isn't around. Someday he'll want to know the full story. And someday we'll have to tell him about the deception and betrayal that led to his existence. But for now he's 5 years old and happy, dividing his time between my father's house and my mother's house, loved by everyone even if our family looks different than it once did. My mother is coming to the wedding. It took a long time for me to decide to invite her, and even longer for her to accept that she'd be there as a guest, not in any mother of the bride position of honor. Our relationship is cordial but distant. I don't trust her the way I once did. I don't confide in her or seek her advice. She's my mother, but she's not my mom anymore, if that makes sense. Jake is not invited to the wedding. He still lives in California, working at an auto repair shop, living a quiet life away from the wreckage he left behind. He sends child support payments for Michael every month as ordered by the court. He's never tried to establish a relationship with his biological son. I don't know if that makes him a coward or if it's the most selfless thing he's ever done. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never found out. If I'd finished my genetics project with fake data. If the pediatrician had never noticed Michael's blood type. If the secret had been kept forever. Would it have been better? Would ignorance have been bliss? But I know the answer. The truth always comes out eventually. And when it does, the longer it's been hidden, the more devastating the reveal. Better to face it sooner than later. Better to rebuild from the wreckage than to live on a foundation of lies. I'm 26 years old now, and these are the truths I've learned. Love isn't enough when trust is broken. I loved Jake, but I could never trust him again after what he did. Without trust, love is just a painful attachment. Family bonds can be broken and reforged, but they're never quite the same. My father and I are close, maybe closer than before because we survived this trauma together. But my relationship with my mother may never fully heal. Children deserve the truth about their origins, told with love and care. Michael will grow up knowing his story, and we'll all help him process it as he gets older. Secrets are heavy. The weight of what I carried alone for 3 months nearly destroyed me. I learned that some burdens are too big to carry silently, that sometimes truth matters more than temporary peace. Please subscribe. This channel is a safe space for stories that expose the truth behind closed doors. People are capable of both incredible love and terrible betrayal, sometimes simultaneously. My mother loved me and still hurt me profoundly. Jake loved me and still chose something that destroyed us. Forgiveness is possible, but it doesn't mean reconciliation. I've forgiven Jake for being young and manipulated and in over his head. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want him in my life. Some things can't be fixed, only survived. My family will never be whole in the way it once was. We're fragments now, trying to create new patterns with our broken pieces. And finally, I'm stronger than I thought I was. I survived the worst betrayal I could imagine. I rebuilt my life. I learned to love again, trust again, hope again. The trauma changed me, but it didn't destroy me. As I prepare to marry Marcus next month, with my father walking me down the aisle and Michael as our ring bearer, I'm not the same Jennifer who walked into that coffee shop at 17 and fell for Jake's smile. That girl was naive and trusting and believed that love conquered all. I'm different now. Wiser maybe. More cautious definitely. But also more resilient. I know what I can survive. I know my own strength. And I know that families are complicated, love is messy, and the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a beautiful lie. Michael is teaching me that too. He exists because of deception and betrayal, but he himself is innocent and good and deserving of love. He's proof that even from the worst situations, something beautiful can emerge. I'm not sure I'll ever fully make peace with what happened. The scars are permanent. But I'm learning to live with them, to integrate them into my story rather than letting them define me. That's all any of us can do really. Take the broken pieces of our lives and create something new. Not perfect. Not whole. But ours. And as I look toward my future with Marcus, toward the family we'll create together, toward the life I'm building away from the wreckage of my past, I'm grateful for one thing. I know the truth. However painful it was to discover, however much it cost me, I know the truth. And that's something no one can take away from me. I'm standing in my backyard in Eugene watching my 7-year-old daughter Emma chase butterflies through the garden while my 5-year-old son David, named after my father, builds an elaborate fort out of sticks. Marcus is grilling burgers and my father has just arrived with Michael, who's 15 now and towers over both of us. And Yen. Emma shrieks with delight, throwing herself at Michael's legs. He laughs and scoops her up effortlessly, spinning her around while she giggles. This is my life now. Messy, blended, complicated, but honest. Michael knows his full story now. We told him when he turned 13, sitting him down with both my father and mother present, one of the few times they've been in the same room in years. We told him about the fertility struggles, about the choice his mother made, about Jake's role in his conception. He took it hard. There were tears, anger, confusion. "So Dad isn't my real dad?" he asked, looking at my father with betrayal in his eyes. "I'm your real dad in every way that matters," my father said firmly. "I chose you, Michael. Every single day I choose you. Biology doesn't change that." "But you lied to me," Michael said. "Everyone lied to me. We waited to tell you until you were old enough to understand," I said gently. "We didn't want you to grow up feeling like you were different or broken. But you deserved to know the truth and now you do." Took time. Months of therapy for Michael, family counseling sessions, long conversations late at night. But slowly he came to accept his story. He understood that he was loved, that his existence wasn't a mistake even if the circumstances were wrong. He asked about Jake once. "Does he want to meet me?" We didn't know. Jake had stayed away for 15 years, honoring the boundaries set by the court and by common sense. But Michael had a right to know his biological father if he wanted to. My father made the call. 3 months later, Jake drove up from California. I wasn't there for that first meeting. It felt wrong to be present given our history. But my father told me about it afterward. "Jake cried the whole time," Dad said. He told Michael how sorry he was, how he never meant to hurt anyone. Michael was polite but distant. He's not ready for a relationship and Jake understands that. They meet once or twice a year now. Awkward lunches where they try to find common ground. Michael calls him Jake, not Dad. He may never call him Dad. But at least he knows where he came from, knows his full genetic history, knows that his biological father cares about him even if he can't be a real parent. As for my mother, she's here today too actually. She arrived an hour ago with her new husband, Richard, a quiet man who treats her well and doesn't ask too many questions about her past. She and I have reached a détente over the years. We're civil, occasionally warm, but the deep trust we once shared is gone forever. She's playing with Emma now, reading her a story under the tree. Watching them together, I feel a complicated mix of emotions. My mother made terrible choices that hurt everyone around her, but she's also Emma's grandmother. My daughter deserves to have that relationship, even if mine with my mother will never be fully repaired. "You okay?" Marcus asks, sliding an arm around my waist as we watch our chaotic, beautiful family. "Yeah," I say, and I mean it. I really am. Took a long time to get here. Years of therapy, of grief, of learning to trust again. Years of watching Michael grow up and worrying about how the truth would affect him. Years of navigating holidays and birthdays and family events with people who'd betrayed each other in fundamental ways. But we survived. We adapted. We built something new from the wreckage. Michael is thriving now. Honor student, varsity basketball player, kind and thoughtful in ways that make my heart ache. He's considering colleges, thinking about his future. The trauma of his origins hasn't destroyed him. If anything, it's made him more empathetic, more aware of how complex family relationships can be. My father is happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way he wasn't even before everything fell apart. He married Sarah 5 years ago and they travel together, run the restaurants together, spoil my kids together. His relationship with Michael is strong. They have their weekly dinners, their basketball games, their private jokes. Biology couldn't create a stronger bond than the one they've built through choice and commitment. Jake is still in California, still living quietly, still sending those child support checks even though he's not legally required to anymore now that Michael is older. He's been dating someone for a few years, I heard through the family grapevine. I hope he's found some peace. I hope he's forgiven himself, though I'm not sure I could if I were him. Me. I built the life I dreamed of, just not with the person I thought I'd be building it with. I'm a veterinarian now, running my own small practice. I have 2 beautiful children who are growing up in a home built on honesty and trust. I have a husband who knows my worst moments and loves me anyway. I have a relationship with my father that's deeper and more authentic than before. I even have a cordial relationship with my mother, which is more than I thought possible for many years. The scars are still there. I still have moments where the betrayal hits me fresh, where I grieve for the innocent girl I was before everything fell apart. I still have complicated feelings about Michael, love mixed with painful memories of how he came to exist. I still struggle with trust sometimes, with the fear that the people closest to me might be hiding devastating secrets. But I'm not defined by what happened to me. I'm defined by how I survived it, how I rebuilt, how I learned to love and trust again despite the wounds. If I could go back and talk to 20-year-old Jennifer, the girl doing that genetics project that would unravel her entire world, here's what I'd tell her. The truth is going to hurt worse than anything you've ever experienced. You're going to feel betrayed in ways you didn't know were possible. You're going to question everything you thought you knew about love and trust and family. But you're stronger than you know. You're going to survive this. You're going to rebuild. You're going to find love again, real love built on honesty. You're going to have children of your own, and you're going to be a better parent because of what you learned from your mother's mistakes. Your family is going to break apart, but some of the pieces will come back together in new configurations. Your father is going to be okay. Michael is going to be okay. And most importantly, you're going to be okay. The path forward won't be easy. There will be years of pain, of anger, of grief. There will be therapy sessions where you sob so hard you can barely breathe. There will be moments when you wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. But you will. Not whole in the way you were before. That innocence is gone forever. But whole in a new way, stronger and wiser and more resilient. You'll learn that love without honesty is worthless. That family bonds can be broken and reformed. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. That some betrayals leave permanent scars, but scars prove you survived. Most importantly, you'll learn that you can trust yourself. Your instincts were right when something felt wrong. Your strength was real when you needed it most. Your capacity for love didn't die when your heart was broken. It just became more careful, more intentional, more hard-won. The girl you are now, naive, trusting, in love with a boy who's betraying you, is about to die. I won't lie to you about that. The person you become on the other side of this trauma will be fundamentally different. But she'll also be more authentic. More resilient. More capable of real intimacy because she won't settle for anything less than complete honesty. So when you discover the truth. And you will discover it because lies this big can't stay hidden forever. Don't be afraid. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will change everything. But you'll survive it. And on the other side, you'll build something beautiful. As the sun sets over my backyard and my family gathers around the picnic table. My children, my husband, my father, my brother, even my mother with her new husband. I look at the faces of the people I love and I feel something I didn't think I'd feel again after everything fell apart. Peace. Not because everything is perfect. My family will never be normal by conventional standards. My relationship with my mother will never be what it once was. Michael will always carry the complexity of his origins. Jake will always be a shadow on the periphery of our lives, but we're honest with each other now. We're real. We acknowledge the pain and the scars instead of hiding them. We've built something authentic from the ruins of what was destroyed, and that's worth more than any beautiful lie could ever be. Michael catches me watching him and grins, that same lopsided smile he's had since he was a baby. What? He asks. Nothing, I say, smiling back. Just glad you're here. Where else would I be? He asks, genuinely confused. It's family dinner. And that's the thing. After everything, after all the betrayal and pain and broken trust, we're still family. Different than we were, configured in ways we never expected, but family nonetheless. Not because of biology, though that's part of it. Not because of history, though we share that too. But because we chose each other. We chose to rebuild. We chose honesty over comfortable lies. We chose to love each other despite the scars. Not by pretending they don't exist. That's what family really is, I've learned. Not the people who share your DNA or the perfect picture you present to the world. It's the people who know your worst truths and choose to show up anyway. As we gather around the table and Marcus leads us in his traditional terrible dad joke before dinner. As my father tells Michael about a new recipe he wants to try at the restaurant. As my mother plays peekaboo with David. As Emma demands that everyone admire the flower crown she made. I realize that this messy, complicated, scarred family is exactly what I needed. Not what I planned for. Not what I would have chosen if I'd known the cost. But real. Honest. Built on truth instead of lies. And in the end, that's the only foundation worth building on. Before you leave, please subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Comment and share your thoughts. Have you ever faced a truth that could break your family? How did you deal with it? Until next time, we keep telling our stories.